Hello. Hi. I'm going to do a quick intro for anyone who is watching back on YouTube or, yeah, just seeing the channel for the first time. But hi, I'm Dr. Joe. This is my indie game clinic, which weirdly has a lot of random guitars and musical instruments in the background. But, I'm a guy with a lot of hobbies. Uh, but yeah, if this is your first time on the channel, this is a variety channel about indie games and how they're made, and I am today working through my back catalogue of games that have been sent to me by developers to take a look at, and they are here. And I've got Beast Mode, Forklift Certified, Gemweilders, My Sticker Zoo, Nimbit, which I might not play because I have actually played that on a stream before, Amino Flux, Restaurant at the End of Time, and Rock Digger. And what I'm going to do in this stream is give each of these 20 minutes of my time just to get some first impressions. And some of them might not get the full 20 minutes if I think there's not enough there. But I think if we hit the 20-minute mark and I still want to play something at that point, then that's a really good sign to the developer that they've got something good. When I set up this channel, the idea was, I've been working in the games industry on and off for like 10 years now and teaching people how to make games, and then sort of going between academia and teaching and jobs in game studios, not indie studios, usually like games as a service places, like making games for mobile. I've made a few games on Roblox and Fortnite, like working with brands to make sort of advert games, we used to call them, like games as marketing. So I have like all of this experience about how games are made when you're working in larger professional teams. And the point of this channel, or most of what I do on this channel, is to help people who are making their own games with some of that experience. So I tend to be focused a lot on, how can you make what you're currently making into a sort of higher quality version of what it already is. And yeah, I've got a lot of games to get through. I get sent games like on a daily basis now. And rather than do a full video on every single one, which isn't super productive, I'll be doing these streams probably at least once a week to do the initial catch up on what's in the mailbag, and then kind of from there deciding which things to make longer videos about. Because I know that if you're an indie developer, you've got this big list of email addresses for content creators who make stuff about indie games that you want to send your game to, but the purpose of my channel is to be critical of games, right? So I have been sent games recently where I've been sort of super impressed by what I was sent, and I've done a whole video just basically plugging the game, but that is not necessarily what I do all of the time, right? So let me just show you some examples. If I go to my Indies Under the Knife playlist on the YouTube channel, like these bottom two games, the Epic Wizardry and Deep Space Cache, they were both games where I could pretty much just recommend them as they were. I thought they were really cool games, but a lot of the time I'm being sent stuff with a kind of eye to sort of how can I help the developers, how can I give feedback that allows them to improve what they're making. Now, I'm pretty sure some of the games on this list are sort of already finished, and I can't necessarily help the developers in that way with these, but I'm going to play them this morning anyway and just see what we get out of them. And I'm going to also get the chat open on my phone because it is so small when I look at it in OBS that I can't see what I'm looking at. 1 second, let me just sort out my chat issues and then we'll get the first game up. Then I can see what you're saying in there. Because at the moment I'm looking at you on OBS and it's tiny. Yeah, I've got the chat open in Restream so I can have Twitch and YouTube in the same place. See all that. Hey Ali, yeah, there is there should be a duplicate of this stream on Twitch, but I'm not finding Twitch super user friendly. So YouTube is always going to be my home, but I'm using Restream to go to Twitch at the same time. But it's not a super friendly platform, I found. Like, you have to have a daily streaming routine of being on at the same time all the time, and I've just, since I started YouTube a year ago, I've not really been able to do that because of my work schedule and, you know, various other projects. And then I have my kids for a week, and then they go to their mums for a week, which means that having the same schedule every single week is quite difficult as well. So I find Twitch is quite aggressively anti-parent in that regard, because it's like, hey, you need to have the same routine every single day, every single week, and I can't do that. So Twitch is going to be a secondary thing for the time being, while I get YouTube really kind of working. But we'll see. We shall see. So, first game on the list is Beast Mode, which has a fantastic name. Beast Mode, Night of the Werewolf. And this, I think the developer sent me this for Halloween, and then when I did my Halloween stuff, I ended up doing a skeleton special. So, werewolves were out of the picture for that one. So let's just see what this is like. Hey, Grumpy Game Dev. I recognise that name. Yeah, I don't have a set streaming time yet, and it's like so I'm starting at 10 in the morning in UK time. But there might be weeks where it's better to stream in the evening. I don't know. I'm just going to experiment and see what happens. Right. Come on, Beast Mode. I don't know if anyone else has found this if you tried to stream stuff, but knowing which games actually show up as a game in OBS is quite difficult. 4 AM. Wow. You're a beast. You're a beast. You're more beast mode than me if you can bear to stream at 4 AM. That's hardcore. Okay, so we got... Let me know if there are any issues with like relative volumes. I can't really tell. When I switch to OBS, my picture goes away because I don't have two screens, so it's very hard for me to do audio monitoring at the moment. Should be called the Beastly Game Dev if you're a beast. So yeah, just let me know about volumes. I will get a second screen as soon as I can, but there's just not enough space for it more than anything. I know I could go on Facebook Marketplace and just get a cheapy little naff one and stick it here, but I am so crammed in that it's just not feasible right now. Excellent. Right, Halloween event, start level, select level. I love that this is, I know I often get excited about the most boring things on this channel, but I love a tooltip. I like hovering over a thing and then having a little thing that tells me what it is. And the funniest thing is that this looks like it's going to be an arcade game, right? So we probably do not need the tooltips here. But then sometimes I play like a hardcore strategy game, like a city builder or a card game, and they don't have the tooltips, and it's like, man, the people working in the most complex genres often kind of forget that they need to do these things. Right, let's just go with start game. That's how we usually start a game. This game looks like a high quality shitpost. Yes, the game equivalent of a Wolves Howling at a Moon t-shirt. And if you look at the top, it says there's 30 hippies. So I'm a werewolf and I'm killing hippies. I love it already. I mean, I'm a little bit of a hippie, but I would say, you know, if we're going to go for the whole subcultural labelling thing, probably a bit more of a goth. I mean, that's not hippie, that's a hillbilly. A lot of health. I'm too stoned to run, man. Yeah, I know. The topic came up on the channel recently of like, what is good jank versus bad jank, and this is good jank, right? Like, this is slapstick, goat simulator type ridiculousness, where everything that's janky about the game you can tell is part of the design. You know, it's not just a shortcoming of the developers. It's like, this is silly and it's meant to be silly. All non-werewolves are hippies. Yeah, that's how that works. We're werewolves, not swearwolves. I like that I'm getting a big combo meter. I love, if you're going to have a fast-paced action game, the kind of Diablo style, you have to do so much in a short period of time or the meter goes back down. I love that kind of thing. It's so good for kind of getting you into a flow state, although I didn't really notice that combo meter until I just stopped comboing and looked up in the corner, so it feels like it's not very front of mind. Why are there hearts on them now? Is it to just... Okay, so that's to, I guess, indicate my werewolf senses being able to hear their heartbeats. Yeah, I love all of what we do in the shadows, but the original film will always have a soft spot in my heart for that. Yeah, Tony, there are a lot of fonts in this. Again, it feels very deliberate, right? It's like a kind of very noisy Flash game or a Roblox game. Ah, 79 in the world. I'm gonna try again. This is this is inadvertently making me realize that if you're making some sort of action or score-based game and you want it to go viral, you want content creators to play it, you need to have one of these bad boys, and you need to let us type in our silly little names. Because that's quite powerful. That's already like made me want to play it more times so that I can be better than 79th. Yeah, try again. So in terms of serious feedback on this, I'm sure this is probably on the stream. It's probably more pronounced than it is for me on my screen right now. But it's very dark in an unhelpful way. And I know that's kind of part of the gameplay because I'm looking for these guys to kill them as quickly as possible. But I think it might be reducing the fun a bit. That jump's great. That's so good. I feel like all of the movement is kind of designed to really feel like a cartoon werewolf in a way that is something that people often don't nail. I think people often just go for what's realistic, or, you know, they're using a first or third person controller that's baked into their game engine and they just sort of stick with how it works. But this kind of big floaty jump is great. It feels really, it just feels like really kind of, I mean, the vibe of the rest of the game, right? All of these comic book fonts and the heavy metal, it's very sort of Saturday morning kids cartoon kind of vibes, like Power Rangers nonsense. And the feel of the running and the jumping sort of fits with that as well. Oh, there's a pumpkin. Smash that pumpkin. So I think the pumpkins are like hidden collectibles, because that just came up as a little number at the side. But yeah, I think the visibility is particularly poor, because I sort of... They have this red highlight on them, like some kind of weird red shader on them, which I think is meant to show... It's like both a highlight, but also this kind of idea that, you know, as a werewolf you can smell them, or you can, you know, smell their blood, or whatever it is, but... I don't think it's quite enough. Because you have to work out whether the challenge in your game is sort of spotting opportunities and taking them in a particular order, which is what this kind of game would normally be about, or whether the challenge is like finding the people in the first place. And I don't think finding hidden things in a game this fast is a fun activity. Yeah, we should have better werewolf vision. I mean, if you look at like that really cheap, it looks terrible on TV and film, but you like Netflix do it loads as well. You know, that kind of cheap way that they kind of film at day and then make it all blue, so you can sort of still see everything properly. I think a lot of games set at nighttime need that, unless you're deliberately using darkness as a mechanic. But I don't feel like that's what's happening here. It just feels. Definitely farm at its base though. It just. I just feel a bit like my ability to climb that scoreboard by doing better each time is going to be very based on luck because of the not being able to find people. Any more hippies? There we go. I mean, I really like the way that they highlight towards the end. I think that's a really helpful mechanic for this type of game, where the opportunities just get further apart from each other the more points you've scored. It's like clearing a pool or a snooker table, right? I mean, you don't really clear a... Yeah, you do clear a snooker table. But particularly with pool, like the more balls are potted, the less balls there are. So it's like there are less opportunities, and then the ones that are there are kind of more obvious if you can see them, kind of thing. What rank did we get? Did I get on the board this time? Yeah, we would have got around here. Oh, around 50. Yeah. Put me on that board. Where am I? Not showing up this time. Refresh it. This is all I care about now. This is my life. Board's broken. Okay, let's see what else this game has to offer. Night in the woods. Right, what do I have to do to unlock the next one then? Because I don't feel like that's been very clearly signposted. Oh, is it because I'm playing the demo? I can never remember whether I'm playing the demo version of something or if I've been sent a key. I think I've got the full version. There's not a very clear... Yeah, next level unlock progress. Okay, so you just grind the level by playing it a few times.
3, 2, 1, kill.
So Slaughterware asked, can anyone put forward a game for submission? It's a good question. And I will give a serious answer in a second once I've killed some hippies. But basically there isn't really a limit on what I will look at. I tend to prioritize games where someone has sent me like a little blurb about what they want help with, because you know, half the submissions I get are just, you know, people who have actually launched their game and they're just sending it to a million content creators, and that's a difficult situation, because if I then rip it to shreds and they get upset about it, it's like, well, you should have looked at what my channel was before you randomly sent it to everyone on some list of emails that you have. But then at the same time, because we are dealing with YouTube, I have to also sort of prioritize games that I think will make a good video. And so we're in this weird thing where people want, you've got some people that want the feedback, some people who want the feedback and just maybe some publicity for something they're making, and then some people that just want publicity. And I have to kind of work out how to take whatever you've done and narrativize it and present it in a clickable format on YouTube, right? So to give an example, if you sent me a game that's sort of kind of a grey box demo that has no art, I think that's actually good practice, right? And that's what I would often encourage people to do as new developers, is like make a ugly game with placeholder art until you've worked out what your game is and what's fun about it, and then, you know, do the art later or get someone to do the art later. That's exactly what I would promote as a like practical and sensible way to make a game. But then in terms of what I think people will click on and watch on here, if something is kind of too bare bones, there's nothing for me to like make as a hook. But then, you know, if I receive a couple of grey box prototypes in a month, then I can maybe put them into one video and do a video of like, here's why you should do grey boxing. So there isn't really a hard and fast rule. I try and prioritize looking at games where people have told me what they want. I mean, this one, you can tell this is just a released game and someone wants me to play it to give it visibility, and that's what I'm doing right now by having it on the stream, but I'm not necessarily going to do a whole video about this game, because it's not a very exciting critique to be like, here's a game, it is fun, I think the lighting should be better. You know, I can't spin that out into a interesting think piece. And then the other thing is, so members of the Discord, we're doing a monthly stream where it is just their games, and that one, it really doesn't matter how far along their game is, because it's like more of just a benefit of being one of the supporters of this channel and being in the Discord. So have a closed Discord that, you know, people have to pay to initially access, and that means it's quite small, but it also means when I give perks out like that, then I can kind of give them to everyone, because it's not a Discord with 5,000 people in or whatever. Okay, I do want to play this until we get the second level, so I can see how different they are, because I feel like that is the measurement of shelf life of a game like this for me. Is there some slightly different gimmick when you get into the second level? Because if it's just another open arena, then they're not really different experiences. They're just sort of different dressing for the same activity. Hey Darius, hey Pseudopsych. I'm not totally sure what you're trying to ask there, Lowells. But I mean, a lot of this stuff depends where you're at and what you're trying to learn. Some people really like learning how to do a little bit of everything in game development, and that is a totally fine way to make a game if that's what you want to do. But if you're making a game to try and make a game that will eventually sell, then I would say, you know, design the interactive elements, get them in front of people, put some placeholder art so people understand the theme of the game, because theming helps people understand what they're doing in the game, right? If you're playing a game and you're playing as a vampire, that implies that something about the game is going to be different than if you're playing as a werewolf. That kind of level of it's not art for the sake of beauty, it's art for the sake of player understanding. I think you should always aim to get that in early, but you want to avoid a situation where you're polishing something and adding loads and loads of art before you know if it's even fun. And you can jump on them when they die. That's great. You can do a Mario jump. One of the things I've seen a lot of YouTube channels, and I might do a video soon, sort of like trying to goad some of these people into letting me play their games, but I see quite a few dev channels where people are working on a beautiful game for like years and years, and I send them a message to say, hey, is this playable yet? And they're like, no. And I guess in their head, their plan is just to make what they want to make and then release a demo eventually, and then probably realise there are loads of problems with it that they should have known about 2 years ago, but they didn't let anyone else play it because, you know, it's their baby and a little work of art rather than a thing for other people to consume. But, I think it's very tempting, particularly people who are good at art, right, to make a game that looks really pretty and just keep showing it off and go, look at my game, look at my game. And it's like, well, yeah, we've looked at your game, but we need to play it now because that's what games are for. And if you want to do things like the proper industrial way, then just think of how research and development departments would work in any other company, right? If they were inventing shoes or food, you do taste testing. You test things along the line and you see what people want to go with, and then you probably make the thing that appeals to either the larger audience or the kind of underserved audience that you're trying to go for. Okay, it takes too long to unlock the second level, and at this stage we don't know if that's even going to be particularly rewarding, because it's like, is it just going to be another glade in a different place with 10 people in to kill? So I'm not going to stick with this one any longer, but I do think that is a fun game. I enjoy that. I think there are some things you could be critical of here in terms of the presentation, but I think it is so over the top, like all of the clashing elements, that it seems deliberate. And I've talked about this recently. If you do something as a joke, like if you do a kind of, oh, it's bad for a joke type thing. Let me just see if we've got a example of this. You know, one of the games I looked at in the Janky Games video, it was like, it kind of seemed like it might have been a joke, but it wasn't obvious enough. And when you're kind of making something that is like deliberately tacky or deliberately bad in some way, it's often better if you go completely overboard, so it's very obvious that that's what you're doing, because otherwise a lot of people won't get it, you know? It's kind of like when you make jokes, when you make self-deprecating jokes about like how you're dumb, and then other people are just like, haha, you're dumb. And it's like, yeah, that's the joke. I was making that joke myself. You don't need to make that joke. But if you don't make it really obvious, then dumb people will think you're actually dumb, or people will think you're just bad at graphic design, or whatever it is you're making into a joke, if you don't make it really over the top and obvious. Hi, Hopper. Yeah, you just email me them. And it's usually better to not try and get into too long a back and forth, because some people email me and they're like, how should I get you my game? And it's like, well, send me a Steam key or send me an itch.io thing. I don't necessarily have enough time to get into a prolonged back and forth with each person via email that sends me a game. It's better to just kind of send the thing you want looked at, and then I'll look at it when I get a chance. Forklift Certified. We've got a forklift game. I'm intrigued by this. I'm quite excited for this, actually. It could be really, really dull, or it could be very exciting. They've got a bit of a stretched capsule image up here. But it's going to be I think it's going to be a change of pace from Werewolf Rampages. Let's see. Yeah, Frederick, it's definitely too dark, that game. I think yeah, for the style of game it is as well. You just need to be able to see what you're doing from the get-go. Okay. There we go. How adorable. The speed is a vibe as well. I'll turn it up a bit. Forklift Certified by Riley Webster. Whenever you get these kind of like simulating a thing in the real world games, it's like, okay, is this going to just be a thing for real forklift nerds, or is it going to be something that is fun enough for anyone to enjoy? I know fun is subjective, but it sort of depends what they do with it in terms of like the challenge structure and everything. FPJ said, yeah, it's hard to let people play around with a game, but testing is too important. Yeah, I think there is a sort of realization of how important it is that you don't get until you've done it, right? You don't realize until you've actually been through that process and had something tested and found it useful. You don't realize how important it really is. And I think sometimes we frame it as like fear of like, oh, I'm worried about the feedback and people are going to say negative things, and it's like, well, are you really worried about that, or are you worried about the work you're going to have to do based on the feedback, you know? Okay, forward is that, forward left, forward right is that, reverse is S. So I can only turn when I'm driving. I can't turn on the spot, which kind of makes sense. It's got like a back wheel drive, which I guess is how forklifts work. I don't know. It's kind of cute. And that's it. Those are all of the controls. So I'm going to drive in there, and presumably I'm going to get a way to control the I don't know what you call them. Oh, I need to reverse right as well. They're called forks. Of course they're called forks. Fork up, hold. Okay, so it's the mouse to go up and down with the fork. I really like the music. Like goofy. I turn it up a little bit more because I don't know if it's coming through. So going back to what FBJ was saying, there's a concept in like educational theory when you're learning to be a teacher or a tutor called threshold moments, which is basically like when you have a sort of mind-blowing learning experience where it's like you've learned something and you can't go back from it. It's such a big kind of defining thing. And the one with game design is like when you realize that what you're doing is meant for other people. And there's loads of people that get into game development as like a technical hobby. Oh, I'm just screwing around with a thing in my own time. And I would say the majority of people who ever pick up the majority of people who pick up a game engine never really hit that point, never really get to that point where they realize that, you know, design is making things for other people, and that means involving them in it, involving them in the process. Frederick, yes, I am aware that the channel badges do not have proper transparent backgrounds. I updated them very quickly last week and then quickly realized, because I have my phone on night mode as well, and it looked a bit derpy, so I will get them fixed soon. Right, time to actually read what the tutorial is saying. Slide forks under pallet, raise pallet to maximum height. Now, the problem is, I've got my forks at the lowest and they won't... They don't seem to visibly go underneath it when I've got them all the way down. So I can put them into it, but that's not being under the pallet, is it? So there's something slightly confusing going on here. feel like I'm doing Robot Wars really badly. Yeah, there we go. Ah! See, I feel like this is in kind of physics-based rage game territory, and I don't mind that, because if that's the whole thing, if that's the focus of the thing, then could make for a neat little game. There we go. Got it. Ah, satisfying. Very satisfying. And then when you reverse, it drops it, which is presumably how they work. This is reminding me of, did anyone ever play Shenmue, the first Shenmue on the Dreamcast? Because that had a forklift in the warehouse minigame, and I remember at the time thinking, oh, I wish this was the whole game. Okay, I need to place the pallet on the button, so I need to go back and pick it up again. Evil. It's a bit too difficult to put the forks initially under the pallet. You can't really put it low enough. This feels a bit silly for it to be the first one. Okay, so there's an angle you need to take to get the forks between. See, the problem is the wording of the tutorial says slide forks under the pallet, and the actual angle that I can get the pallet from, it's not under, is it? It's sliding the forks into the pallet under the like top layer of the pallet. Nice. So it's very interesting how you can make like just putting an item on a button to open the next section of a game, how you can make that quite interesting if you just make the process of picking something up and putting it down quite difficult. It's kind of like that whole golf is a good walk spoiled thing. All games are just like taking a thing from A to B, but it's like how interesting do you make the journey sort of thing. Right, we're gonna use our forks on a lever now. Lovely. This is really cute. This is a really good use for a forklift. I already really like the fact that this is not aiming to be a full-blown simulator. You know, this isn't necessarily a game for forklift nerds. This is a general gamer's game that uses a forklift to kind of do interesting things with kind of physics and movement of objects, and I am here for it. I do wonder if it's going to turn into sort of Wilmot's warehouse halfway through, and we're going to have to drive around and manage a whole warehouse of stuff, which... we need to go back and get the other one, don't we? Is there another one back here? But that's going to open the door. That's going to close the door if I pick that one back up. I'm going to be stuck. Oh no. See, that's... I don't think that makes much sense as well from just the point of view of the design of the tutorial. I would have thought retrieving that to put it on the next, to put it on this green spot, I would have thought that would lock me out of this room. Yeah, you know, if I played a full game and these were the textures for the tutorial, I would not be bothered at all. It looks very deliberate. You know, like the idea that you're going through a sort of simulated version of the game before you go into the proper game. I'm fine with that. Drive into the water. Excellent. You have failed your forklift test. Yeah, it's so visually clear, isn't it? It's like, We'll see what the main game is like. World map. That cursor is a little bit awkward because the point that you click with is not in a place, in a very standard place. Tutorial, farm, train yard, dungeon. Of course. More along this way. Closed for demo. Locked for demo. Okay, cool. So we've got a kind of overcooked type world map. I think if you want this to feel different from the game and like you're in a different thing and you're not just doing the a game level as a world map, if you just zoom the camera out a bit, that's gonna like make a world of difference. Let's go and check out the farm. Amazing. Let's see who needs to get forked in this farm. It says I need to feed 11 animals and load some trucks. Can I just feed them from here? Oh, I can't. Can I just take a carrot? I'm guessing I can't just pick random individual vegetables. They have to be crates and stuff. Hello, friend. They're blocking the way. I can't drive through them. I think the developer might want to think about occlusion and making some of these things see-through when they're in the way. That building does it, but the windy mill did not do that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the old school Mario style level select where it just gives you a sense of a bigger world even though it's actually just like 3 buttons on a thing that are a bit awkward to go between. I think it's great. Hello. Okay, so these white things I think are showing me where the feed should go. And you know what? The fact that this is not spoon feeding me at all, it's just like you need to find a thing and put it here. I think that is the right approach for what this is. It's giving us a tutorial for like how to do the potentially difficult bit, which is driving the vehicle. It's not then giving us a tutorial for like here is how you get a task and respond to a task, and I think that's the right approach. I don't think we need it for that. Okay, we fed the birds and they've got out the way. That's great. So we've got like a compound benefit for doing one of the tasks. It's not just the number goes up at the top. We've actually unblocked the level a little bit by doing that. That's really nice. Feels like my actions have meaning. I love it when my actions have meaning. What do we got? Where's everything else that I'm supposed to unload though? You keeping it from me? You're hiding it from me, aren't you? Is it in here? Do I need to knock down the? Need to go reverse Amish on this barn. Knock the barn down. Right, that's a truck to load. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this game already, even though it's very simple and kind of goofy. Part of me almost feels like I would maybe like the driving to be slightly more unwieldy, because there's not much friction here, you know. It responds to every input in exactly the way you would expect. And I think that makes it kind of feel very simple and casual, and that's fine, but I think this sort of game sometimes is as much about the mistakes you're able to make, like even if they're not very high, you know, high stakes mistakes. Like that's funny that can happen. I like that. and just maybe having a little bit of a wiggle when you're driving through mud. Not to slow you down too much, just to make it feel a bit more unpredictable, I think. Right, I'm going to pick up that chicken feed, and then I saw there was some fowl on the prowl over yonder. There's some kind of document floating in the air there. It's probably a cease and desist telling me to stop what I'm doing. Ah, okay, that needs to go in there. I have been fooled. I need to drive back through the detractors of peril, which are, oh, they're very hard to see because of the camera angle. I could probably use a oh, what is happening here? I could probably use a zoom out function for this game. As a part of the issue with this type of angle, it's kind of the it's the angle they use in Animal Crossing, right? Where you're kind of looking down, but anything that is behind the vehicle that's in the distance, you've got a good sense of how far away it is from you and stuff like that. But anything that is like between you and the camera, you don't have as much time to respond to it. And it might be good to be able to zoom out. Okay, so you can't drive through the crops, so you have to use the gap they're making to kind of get out of here. That's really neat. So simple but really cool. I'm gonna go back and get the paper in a minute. Yeah, I clocked it and then I missed it when I was coming back that time. I also really like the oh no, my god. Hang on, if I lift it up then I can. Okay, yeah. If you reverse, it drops an item if it's on the if it's low, but if you hold it up and reverse, then you don't drop it. That makes sense. I really like it sort of reminds me a little bit of Mario Kart, the way you can have a very kind of rage-inducing game that is quite mean to you, but kind of couch it in all of this colourful, kidsy sort of art, and that just makes it feel even funnier. You know, like getting run over by a tractor and exploded is not what I necessarily expect to happen when I see this set of art, and that's a really fun mixture of things. Oh, I can't get the paper now because it's gone in there. Sir, do you have your paperwork? Do you have your forklift license? No, sorry, I left it in the back of this farming vehicle. It's in there. It's my tax returns. Right. I do keep forgetting to actually lift the items up after I've got them. There we go. So I have to drive back through the tractor, the field of doom. See, this has something, and I know they're very different games, but to compare this to the Werewolf one, seeing that kind of little gimmick, that kind of play feature of having that field with the tractors going around in it to avoid, like seeing that in the first level basically sets me up now to expect that other levels will have similar little things to learn and experience in them. And that's quite powerful, because I think often people rush ahead to make loads of content for their game and make 5 levels or 10 levels or 20 levels, and there's nothing in the first 1 or 2 levels to really make me want to explore and find out what's in the rest of them. You need to sort of show people, like, look, this game has these little interesting things that are what you get for unlocking a new level. And yeah, if you have a sort of just grindy challenge type thing, and then it's like, you can unlock the second level if you do this enough, it's like, well, you haven't done anything to show me that the second level is likely to have anything new or interesting in it. Whereas this is just from the get-go showing me that each level is going to be like a playset with some unique features in. because we already know that the other level, this is like the farm level, and the next level's not a farm, right? So we're not going to necessarily see a repetition of that tractor puzzle, or whatever you want to call it, challenge, thingamy-bob. Slaughterware said, where are the animal noises? Yeah, I think there are a lot of missing noises here. There's not a driving noise either. It feels like a bit of a... If I were going to pick out like big, wide areas for improvement, then the lack of sound is probably the weakest thing about this game currently. Let's pick the one from furthest away. Hang on, I wanna check something. Can I? Can we find a hack? Yeah, that's what you want. Oh, baby, we're in emergent gameplay land. Oh, did it just destroy it because it went out of bounds? That's no fun. I was really hoping I could dump that hay bale down and then go round and retrieve it, but it looks like if you don't take it all the way in one go, it resets it, which is one of those, it's like a kind of guardrail feature that I can sort of understand why they're doing it, but I think having a game that has the potential for players to come up with little workarounds and exploits is a much better thing to aim for if you can, but I also understand it's sort of harder to QA, harder to make sure people can't break the game for themselves. Because if people find a workaround that breaks the game and makes it too easy for them, they will stop playing eventually. You know, it's the sort of thing that we love to find, but then you sort of end up making the game no fun for yourself because there's not enough friction. Can I carry multiple at a time? I don't know. Let's give it a go. Doesn't seem like it. Oh, you can actually drive through these. It's just slow. That's it. Okay, it's quite inconsistent because you can... The ones that are growing, you can drive through slowly, but the ones that are wall, like the wall of that, you can't drive through. I think if they are going to have different properties, they need to look different from each other, because that's very confusing. Right, this game has already had its 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop it even though I do want to keep playing. So that is a good sign, right? That is a good sign, and this is a game that might get a full video as a result of that, just because I think it it kind of deserves a good crack at getting eyes on it. But I'm a little bit disappointed that I can't sneak things over walls and then pick them up from the other side. That's a bummer. What else is in the list? We've got something called Gemweilders, something called My Sticker Zoo, which looks like a bit... This is the most like ADHD excuse for a channel concept. So I play games for 20 minutes and then play something else. What do we got here? Play online, full version feature. Scholar, is that demo? Greetings, child. You hold your gem bearer well. But a gem bearer without gems is a stew without spices. Do you have a favourite gem? What a weird place to start. Hey, buddy, have you got a favorite gem? I like the red one. I like the red one. That's my favorite gem. Hey, Bite Me. Do you ever get disappointed by your audience? Like you give so many solid creative tips and then their games are meh. Ignore everything you advise. That's a very, very good question. And Lowells, I will show you Nimbit in a minute. I played Nimbit a little bit, and it's kind of Chrono Trigger meets Pokemon type thing. It's alright, it's just kind of weak in places that I'm particularly sensitive to. Bite Me, thanks for popping in. I don't know really. I guess, like, I guess my intention is never to actually improve the game I'm talking about. Is to use the game I'm talking about to talk about general principles that then other people can use, right? So if I review like 10 games and 9 of those developers ignore my advice and only one of them takes the advice, then hopefully that one is a better game for it. But I think even of the other 9, if the audience for this channel are taking in some of what I'm talking about and applying it themselves, then that's fine, you know. It's kind of the same as a sort of classroom situation. Like if you go into a class for any kind of art thing, or like even if you do poetry, right? If you went to college to do poetry, you would all have to sit around and read each other's stuff and give each other feedback. So even just creating a culture of feedback, there will be people who don't take this feedback, but there will be other people who benefit from it, even if it's not about their thing. But yeah, it's a good question. I don't feel particularly disappointed myself when I see that sort of thing. Like I've definitely had at least one person get in touch and say, "Oh, your review a while ago was kind of mean. Can you like take it off of our Steam page because I put it on as a curatorial thing?" And in that situation, I did because I wanted to be polite, but I did feel like they hadn't really addressed the core issues that I found with their game. Okay, we're going to do some hammer drafting. We've got stuff. We've got gems. We've got stuff that gives me swords and stuff that gives me shields. And we're going to do some Slay the Spire type stuff. I feel like this is too much information for someone's first round of a game. You know, you want to just give them blocking and defense and then other stuff later on. I'm going to go with purple. Listen to what Sokras has to say. No. I don't respect Sokras or what he has to say. Press space to continue. Go ahead, click on a gem to socket it. Okay. Draft that. Well done. If you have enough gems, you may now draft a card. I think what they're doing here is like... They're doing like the Hearthstone thing where you just get more mana each turn, but you get to choose what colour the mana is. I think that's what they're going for. I'm not sure it's an interesting approach. Because the mana management in Magic the Gathering was always like a really boring thing to me. Each turn you have the option to draft a source. Try it. I don't know what I'm supposed to click on. You've got this arrow in the background of the tutorial as well, which isn't related to anything I'm doing currently, and it's very distracting. Right, that is a source. Okay. Highlight the thing you're talking about in the tutorial. You're doing great. Let's move on for now. Okay, finish drafting. In the main phase, you set up your defenses. Play a defense card to add it to your defense setup. Okay. Excellent. It will remain there until you're attacked. It's often best to add all your defense cards to your defense setup. Once you're ready... Okay. So far, so Slay the Spire / Rogue Book. I like this guy's attack cards. He's got lecture and scolding. That's good. He's scolding me. Oh yeah, scold me, Grandpa. Yeah, I think it's all AI generated, which means it won't be getting a push from me. I would say at least it feels consistent, and I think one of the biggest problems I have with AI, if you put aside the issue that it's going to destroy our planet in the next 10 years and we'll all be fighting over water in a sort of Fist of the North Star post-apocalyptic wasteland type situation. If you put that aside, then I think the issue a lot of the time is that people just use it really inconsistently, and it's very hard to get stuff that matches up. So I do occasionally receive stuff like this, and I'm quite impressed by how consistent the style of the art in the cards is. But I'm still never going to like massively publicize a game that clearly uses AI art, because I think it's bad. I think it's bad for like the creative industries as a whole to embrace it. And yeah, just... And I also think, you know, if you're indie in any media, whether it's games or music or video or whatever you're making, I think you want your thing to look DIY on some level. And often this just generates stuff that looks like very, very polished. And then if you have very, very polished art, then people expect, you know, I look at this and I expect the quality of the tutorial and all of the UX to basically be as high as Hearthstone because of how the art looks. And it's not going to be, right? Because that's not the bit that's been AI'd. So we add all our defenses, prepare attack. I'm not making any decisions at this point. I'm just playing all my cards because there's no like mana limitation on what I can play from my hand. But it is at least doing the thing that a lot of deck builder combat games like this don't do, which is you are building the deck during the match because you're drafting. I quite like that approach, but I also don't know what enough of these like keywords mean to be able to like look at this draft and do anything with it in my first play. So like the tutorial seems quite robust. They've done a step-by-step tutorial, but they've basically missed out on the issue of like how much information is given to the player to pass in the first tutorial, because these cards are too complex and contain too many keywords to be thrown at you in the first tutorial. Because I look at this and the game is basically saying to me, oh, don't worry too much about what these say, you'll learn it later. But that's just a really good way to like throw people off and make them feel overwhelmed. You need to like have a set of basic stuff to teach people with. It's one of the reasons why Slay the Spire like gradually unlocks the cards. Okay, it's there to give you like a rewarding unlock path, but it's also there to hide a lot of complexity from you when you're first learning the game. This is not doing that. It's just going, hey, pick one of these 5 things. You don't know what they do. So yeah, I'm not invested enough in this to want to try it any further. And I'm not seeing... It's like I can't see what the turn-to-turn choices are, because it's just letting me play all of my cards every turn, which is like, where's the decision? So yeah, I'm gonna back out of that one for now, because I don't think we're gonna get much out of it. Let's check out my sticker zoo. Smug's gonna set up the seawater. Yeah, Undertale is a really good example, right? If you make that art better, you lose what's special about the game. Yeah, Puppet, I agree. That ambient sort of twinkling sound was not a nice sound. I should have made it quieter on my end. Here we go. Let's get the next game up. this is going to be one of those who is it for type games, because it kind of already looks quite childish, and I don't have a problem with that. I like things that are childish or cute, but sometimes it makes me think, like, who is supposed to buy this? Who is supposed to enjoy this? I saw a quick glimpse of what sort of thing this was in the press kit I was sent, and it looks kind of board gamey. And I always think they're a dangerous one to send me, because I do, you know, I have historically played a lot of board games, and when I play a video game that is based on board games that doesn't seem like it's been based on anything, you know, it's just been kind of made up as they go along, then I'm more likely to be critical of that. But let's see. Yeah, Slaughterware, the forklift one is my favourite of what we've seen so far today. In this introductory scenario, you will find 8 levels that teach you the basics of the game. After completing this scenario, you unlock sandbox mode and more challenging scenarios. Okay. Move the camera with the WASD. Click on cars to select them and click on empty tiles to place them. After placing a tile, a card of the same type will be automatically selected so you can build quicker. See, this is what I want to start off with. Starting hand, absolutely no decisions. I'd rather have, at least in the first minute of the game, I'd rather have no decisions than fake decisions where it's like, pick one of these 5 things that you don't understand yet. Okay, I'm placing a path there. Placing a forest? I just completed my first habitat. I don't know if a path is a habitat. Hey, Terry. Yeah, luckily this game has no cat's water fountain malfunctioning sound in the background. Place a forest. Okay, so I click on the forest. Minimum habitat size of 3. Enclosed habitat gains a score multiplier. Score multiplier increase at 6, 10 and 4. Okay. This is quite it seems like it's going to have quite a robust scoring system for how you need to build each habitat, which is what games like this really depend on. You know, you want different ways of scoring things that are maybe in conflict with each other. And okay, that scored extra because it was enclosed. That's cool. I'm not sure why they need to be cards at the bottom. I feel like they're a bit obtrusive and they get in the way, and it would be better to just see my tiles down at the bottom before I place them. I get that you want to have the text to say, you know, what is the scoring of that thing, but there are other ways of doing that, like tooltips when you hover over it. Yeah, we're gonna make a nice big forest. Am I just replaying the same level? Am I being a doofus? Yeah, I think I am. Okay, I think I pressed try again, didn't I? Start it small. Oh, it's because when you come to this level, this screen, it's still selected on the last level, so you click play scenario. Yeah, that needs to jump to the next one when you come back here. We've got someone in the Discord who is working on a hexagonal tile-based game like this. Ooh. What do we want? Do we want African savanna animals? Do we want fishies? Or do we want whatever this one is? I'm gonna wait on chat for this decision. Yeah, it's kind of goofy that the paths are referred to as a habitat. I sort of understand that they're trying to use the same language across the whole game, but it's a bit weird. Okay, we've got a bunch of fish lovers in the chat today. Fish of the North Star. Yeah, at least when the water wars come, we will have our fishy habitat. There we go. Oh. I we going fish again? Are we going for a full fish run? Someone says owls. They want owls. I mean, I think it'd be funny to just try and do a... So the packs of cards, when you draft them, have buildings and enrichments in. Yeah, I think we're going to go... We're going to build Antarctica. We're going to go all polar and aquatic. And then these tropical clownfish are going to get very confused and think, why am I here with all of these penguins? Look at them! Look at those guys! Look at them! Yeah! Not giving me any more fishies. I like this little warning rope to indicate where you haven't closed it off properly. That's kind of good. Finally we get some more fishies up in here. So I'm not... It seems like the habitats all have the same scoring rules. Alright, we'll give this a few more levels. Oh. I did it back. There's some very confusing menu shenanigans going on in this game. Yeah, I get the impression that there are supposed to be different things in the packs, because they do list having different sorts of things in. And then those things don't seem to be in them. Yeah, the music is great. I mean, I'm sure it's chosen from a library, but it's very good, very well chosen for what the vibe of the game is. Ah, now we're getting path packs. That's a more interesting choice, right? Between different types of thing. Do you want to basically have a turn where you don't get to build any more habitats, but you get to stretch your paths out? That's a good kind of decision, because it's a decision between different types of things. I think when you have something urgent, like the amount of packs left, which is up in the top right, you might not be able to see it because of my atrocious branding. But you have this packs left, it's right up in the top right, and that's a thing that people need to pay attention to and be aware of. So I think I would want to see that feel a bit more visible and urgent. Maybe it's, you know, something that counts down and is clear when it's running out. This is chaos. This is a terrible zoo. Absolutely awful. Gonna get visited by the documentary crew about how mistreated my animals are and how bad my layout is. I mean, I'm sort of playing it in a not paying attention way, and doing badly, which is kind of a good test as well of like how complex your game actually is. Because I sort of complained a moment ago that it seems a bit too simple in terms of how the scoring works, but if you just sort of wing it and don't pay attention, you can mess it up quite easily. And that's a good quality to have in this sort of game, I think, because it is about the sort of permanence of what you're doing, of placing things down and then they're stuck there, you know? Got some random paths that go nowhere. Arctic lions. Do we have some Arctic lions here, or are they? No, those guys are on some sand. They're from the savannah biome. Ah, here we go. We're getting some more mechanics here. So, information is power. That counts for a good score. Learn how to use information boards to gain a lot of score from surrounding habitat tiles. Give score for each habitat tile that borders this tile. Also functions as a path. So if you put those so that they have as many things around them as possible, then they score the most, which is nice. I'm gonna do a sort of mountain and forest one this time, I think. Going to be boring and pre-build all my path. Didn't want tropical. Oh well. Sometimes you don't want tropical, but that's what you get. That's life. Wait, can I just put... Oh no, the signs have to still function as paths, so I can't just put one right in the middle. That'd be funny. Ah, I can't preemptively put it there. It has to be joined to a path. Oh, these mountain goats are just tricking me into building the biggest possible thing for them. Sneaky little goats. Right, I need to finish this one off because I've only got a few packs. There we go. Oof. This is terrible. What a way to finish. I hope this isn't how zoos are really managed. Just someone getting randomly given some animals and then just going, ah, yeah, you go over there, that's fine. Sure, you love it. Life is like a box of tropics. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you have these star-based systems, it is good to make sure that people are getting 2 stars early on. I think you're right there, Frederick. Otherwise, it seems kind of fake. And you do want to have something to go back to later on, right? Restroom. This tile gives score if nearest restroom is further than 3 tiles away. Also functions as a path. Okay, so these have to be far away from each other. And that means if you pull 2 on the same turn, you have to think about where they both go. I think I might have put it too close. I think I might have messed up with my restrooms there. Story of my life. Okay, pulling the restrooms is going to be really annoying because it really forces your hand on how you draw your paths. And as the person currently playing this game, I find that very annoying. But as someone who is inherently evil, I think it's great. Like these games are only as good as the annoyingly difficult situations they place you in are, right? That's the whole point of tile playing games. There's a permanence to every little thing you do, and then later on, when you've messed it up, you feel like it's your fault because you look at it and you go, "Oh man, why did I put that there?" And yeah, I mean, people tend to respond better to problems in games when they made them themselves. It's just a particular type of funny sort of semi-slapstick feeling to realise that the problem in the game is something that you could have avoided and you did it yourself, you know. Put one across there and split that one in 2 as well. Hello, mountain bird. How are you today? This guy. Yeah, I think you're right, Frederick. I think for a Steam audience, can probably handle the complexity going up quicker in this game. I think it is a little bit too simple early on. I'm usually an advocate for treating players like they're stupid, because they usually are. But given that this game looks so childish, I think you want to do something to dispel that idea quite soon. Like, even this level, I'm not being given the information signs, so I've had some complexity taken away from me when they've added a new thing to do, because I'm just getting toilets now, and not signs. And I'd be quite happy dealing with both things at once at this stage. It's always a difficult call, you know, like, oh, I thought that was a path, that was stupid. You know, like just working out how complex to make something, or like how early to expose people to complexity. Ah, my toilets are ruined. It's good. It's good. Two-star, and as it should be. That is, I mean, if I went to this zoo, if I took my children to this zoo, I would be like, I wouldn't give this 2 stars. I would be like, why have you got these toilets so close together? Why is there all this void of floating translucent hexagons? You know, I don't want to. What if the animals fall in there? What happens if these red pandas fall into those translucent hexagons? What's going to happen to them? Animal welfare nightmare. Right. We'll do one more just to see what else we get. We get a playground. Is this a children's playground or a playground for pandas? Give points for each path bordering this tile multiplied by bordering playgrounds. Okay, so we put playgrounds together in a big section and then we put paths around them as well. This is going to be the thing where you can build a zoo with no animals in. I love it. I love it when board games let you do that. Like Agricola is like the classic farming one. Just like trying to play that game only making bread is very funny. Just like, no, I'm a bread farmer, that's all I do. No livestock here, buddy, just bread. And if there was a way of playing this with no animals, that would be very amusing to me. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it in a minute. We've got to try it. Yeah, when it introduces a new mechanic, it doesn't let you play with the old ones at the same time. And I sort of understand why they've done that. But it makes it feel like a sort of casual mobile game rather than a sort of game for the Steam audience. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a sort of market where people buy sort of, you know, younger looking, safer games to play with their kids or whatever, but that's never been my experience of sort of playing games with my kids, really. It's just, I have games I like as an adult, and if they are appropriate, then I share them. I wouldn't necessarily go and pick out games that are simpler. But this isn't, you know, when you put all of the elements of this game together, it's not a kid's game, but when you section it all out to simplify it, then it feels like a sort of very casual, sort of mobile-y type thing. So I'm gonna go back to the menu, and I want to try and build this with no animals. Just to see if it can be done. Hey, Mitogia, if that's how you pronounce it. How is it going? It is going fine. This is a goofy little zoo game, and we're just about to finish with this game actually, but I wanted to test whether I could make a zoo with no animals in it and still win the level, because that would be very funny. Here we go, playground there. Path. I think if you make a game that is about building things and it can support this kind of stupid play where you just build something that's totally against the spirit of the game, then you've probably made a good game. Yeah, I think it always gives you a path pack, so we might be able to do it. Best zoo ever! I'm gonna make these gaps smaller because it looks like it's only giving me one playground at a time, so yeah, I'm gonna fill all this in because what an amazing zoo. There we go. I mean, we didn't get 3 stars for it, but you can do it, and that's all I care about. The best zoo ever. A zoo where instead of animals, it's just children saying, "Where are the animals? Where are the animals? This zoo is rubbish." That's what I want. If you give me a game and say this game is about making a zoo, I want to be able to make a zoo with no animals in. That's good. I think that's a great little game. I think it needs to work out who it's for, and like, you know, it feels too drip fed and sort of simplified, and when you combine that with the style of the art, it makes it feel like it's aimed at small children, and I don't think it needs to be. I think this is a sort of, you know, could be a reasonably complex game for grown-ups, but it sort of just spoon feeds the mechanics a little bit too slowly in that tutorial for my liking, I think. And I again, I'm sort of saying this as someone who plays a lot of board games of different types, and I see this sort of thing and I think of, let me just get I see this sort of thing and I think of a game like this, Baron Park, which is German for Bear Park, I think. And you know, these games are not necessarily kids games. They have quite a lot of complex scoring rules and stuff. The other one that came out much more recently is the board game Calico, where you make a little quilt for a cat to sleep on. It's like the most abstract thing. Like, oh, and you want to put certain colors and textures next to each other and make the cats happy by making a quilt they like, which I didn't know cats were so picky about, you know, what patterns were on their quilt and how many buttons there were. And so yeah. But yeah, I think I always get a little bit of an alarm bell when I see a board game style video game, because I just think, how is this going to measure up versus like a digital version of Baron Park or a digital version of one of those games? Because those games are actually quite sophisticated, and I think people who have played those games are going to find, like, my Sticker Zoo is doing all of the things that it needs to do, but I just felt a little bit like that onboarding was a little bit too hand-holdy and patronizing, and I would have been happy to play with more of those mechanics together straight away. We will dive into Nimbit. I have played a little bit of this already. I'm not super impressed by this, but someone sort of sounded excited by it earlier, so sorry if you're the dev. I think this game is good, but it's sort of, well, let me get it open and we'll see. I'll see if it saved my progress since last time. I did have a little look at this one already. And do I need to use the joypad? Cannot remember how to play this. Is that why it appears to be frozen? It's not giving me the option to there we go. So the setup here is there's like a kind of roguelike-y loop thing where you go down, you travel down onto a world and you collect stuff, and then you have like this home village that you're living in, which is where you raise your Nimbits, who are your little creatures, right? So, but yeah, there's a lot of like weird anti-aliasing happening with a lot of the fonts and stuff in this game, which I'm not usually bothered by, but the game is so polished that it kind of makes it feel weird. It feels like a very high-end Flash game, like the first iteration of Binding of Isaac or something like that. Because some of the art is like, is that meant to be pixel art or is it meant to be sort of hand-drawn vector art? It's like they haven't really made up their mind. But yeah, here's my little bean that I'm growing. Mr. Nimbit himself, yeah, exactly. Grow my little bean, go and say hello to it. And every day I feed it, it gets like 25% of its growth, which is a tiny little thing, but it makes it feel a bit too predictable, because now I know exactly which day it's going to be a fully fledged Nimbit. Okay. But yeah, I found the first hour or so of the game, there's lots of setting up and telling you how the world works. And I didn't care for it massively. Fertilize the egg with a Booyoo mucus Genetic tissue fragment from a Fuyu. Okay. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hello, bean. We've got a big bean and an eggy bean now. It's incubating. So yeah, we've got a little roster. I would imagine one day you can, you know, grow this house and have another row. I don't know. I don't know how it works. But I think the art's beautiful. I think the world building's really nice. It's just so structured that the first hour or so is kind of just showing you, okay, here's the game loop, and it's very... These are all things that I normally am like, yeah, you need to have a visible game loop. You need people to understand what the game is about, but it's so structured that it kind of makes the activities that you're doing feel a bit like a job, and I'm not sure that I like that. And maybe it was just that I didn't find this sort of dungeon crawling bit interesting enough to like the rest of it, because I think the art is really good. The world seems very well thought out in terms of how everything works, and it's like, you know, when we did one of the first videos I did on this channel was for Terra Dentium. I think the dev of that is in our Discord community now, and one of the things I felt about that was it was like they'd gone down the genre route of Pokemon, but they hadn't really thought through why you're a trainer in that world. And this one, all of that stuff is very well thought out. There's a lot of introduction to, you know, what Nimbits are and what's going on with them and all of that. Probably more than I've really paid attention to. It seems very thoroughly thought out. But then when I get down here and do this bit, it's just like, I don't know, there's certain things, there's a lot of missing sound effects, right? Like, where are the sound effects for those spike traps? There should be a sound for them coming out, and there should probably be a sound for them triggering initially. And there's lots of little sound effects missing here. And I think it's just that disparity between the art looks really, really good, and that kind of raises your expectation across the board of everything else. And they've got the sound effects on the combat, obviously. But it's kind of quite repetitive sound design. We don't have any variation in the attack sounds or anything like that. And I just think, yeah, the sound is like a key area of this game that could use a lot of love. Oh, and yeah, you've got a little scorpion come over here thing you can do, which is cool. And then switching between a pick and a sword. And then I've got a bomb down here that I use with F. And some placeholder text. An F item bottled fire description. We also just suddenly have no music, you know? It's like... It's the kind of... I think everyone... I don't know how many people worked on this game. If it's just one person, though, it's very impressive. But I do feel like the smaller your team is, the more likely you are to have just one big blind spot in what you do. And I feel like the sound is a big one here. Which would probably be a deaf spot rather than a blind spot, but... But yeah, the thing about these kind of challenge run dungeons that are sort of Binding of Isaac type thing is I don't find this core gameplay compelling enough to make me want to play lots of the game. Very easy to get knocked out in one like that as well. So I don't know. I'm also missing a sort of Cult of the Lamb Hades style dodge roll, which I'm so used to being like just a thing you can do in this genre. That sort of invulnerability dodge that sort of goes all the way back to things like Devil May Cry and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know. I think it feels like the activity of going down and fighting monsters and collecting things is there as a chore. It's like, this is what you do every day in this game, and it doesn't feel inherently exciting to do. And that's a shame, because all of this world has had so much put into it. Oh no, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Do you want to be my friend? No. You literally just said you're not allowed to talk to strangers, so I'm not going to be friends with you. She's reserved now. Scarlet the Child has been met. That's her name, Scarlet the Child. She's the only child in the village. So let's just check out the town a little bit. Howdy, that's right. Mayor Yuri said someone new was moving to Star's End. You must be the one. Everyone calls me Hugo. I don't. I just come in your house and start blasting. Hey, Hugo. You do not have permission to enter. Hey, Hugo, can I have permission to enter? Hey, Hugo, where are you going? You're just going out and leaving me in your house. Yeah. We've got a very standard JRPG town in terms of how everything works, and everyone's like, hey, I've got one thing to say. Later on, I might have one other thing to say. I'm fine with that. I think that this sort of like steampunky weird combination of technology and time periods is really enjoyable. I like that as well. But we also have a lot of these spaces where you go in an interior and there's like nothing there. And it's a weird mix of things, because like the more abstract your game is, the more you can get away with rooms like this. But if you start going for fidelity and having like these beautiful decorated outsides of buildings, and then you go inside and there's nothing there, it sticks out a lot more. I pet my dog. Dog looks like a little loaf. Who's this? Willow. Greetings, I'm Willow, just another deep space horror novelist. Are you the one filling the Nimbit vacancy? Yes? I don't get to speak for myself. Hello, I'd like some noodles. Ramen shop is not in demo. Ah, thank you, Astral. I recognise that name and that picture. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yeah, I feel like the town is definitely the stronger area of this game. The actual gameplay when you go into the combat bit is just like... It feels like a sort of Flash game from 15 years ago. It feels like a sort of first draft of Binding of Isaac or something. And it just needs some more stuff. The problem is, it's just like as you go through the rooms and you do what's in the room, and there's not really anything to distinguish different people's like play styles or anything, because you're all just using the same set of tools. And I know I might just be describing like every Zelda-like that has ever existed, but personally I feel like that is not enough to hold people's attention nowadays, when we've been spoiled by things like Hades and stuff like that. And it's like a difficult thing when you sort of, well, I need to find wherever my house is and go to sleep so we can go back down in the dungeon again. But when you choose what genre of game to make in the first place, it's like, are you gonna be able to put in the work to make this the best in the genre? And if you are making a game where the competitors are like Hades and the Binding of Isaac, then you need to execute on that core combat gameplay really, really well. Otherwise, I guess this is a slightly different audience. This has got this kind of Chrono Trigger nostalgia thing going on for it, but I just think if people have played similar games, if people have played similar sort of top-down dungeon crawlers, then the way that the gameplay works in this is just missing some stuff. And I guess it's that thing again, I think we talked about it earlier, of sort of being shown enough of the toys in the toy box to know that there's a reason to continue. And at the moment, it's just like, well, I know my experience of being in a dungeon is just going to be doing this and walking and doing this and walking. And that's not enough to make me want to do it 10 times in a row, you know? And I have a very short attention span, and I'm very, very novelty driven. So if your game doesn't have new things unlocking all the time and new things to do and stuff, then that's the sort of thing that turns me off very quickly. And seeing a game where there's not enough sign of it early on, like sometimes just people pace the start of their game too slowly, and you don't get enough sense of like the fact that you are going to unlock stuff. Right, I can't find my house. It's too big. This town's too big. Is there a map? Here we go. There's a useless map that doesn't tell me what anything is, and I can't remember what my house looks like. So I know that Old Man Logan is up there in that shop, but that's about it. Yeah, sort of where. I mean, I'm nearly 40, so I'm not saying Flash games in a dismissive way. There's just this particular art style where it kind of looks like something that was drawn with Illustrator, or like drawn with what do you call it, vector graphics, and then turned into pixel art, and it just looks a bit like it's stuck between two worlds. And yeah, I mean, some of the best indie games that we've ever had and still had started as Flash games. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Flash games, and I miss a lot of the Flash games, but the movement and the sort of lack of sound and stuff was the stuff that was really throwing me off when we got into that combat section. Yeah, I don't know. If this one has a demo, I would say check it out if it looks interesting to you, but there is something about that kind of structure of, okay, you're gonna do stuff in the town and then you're gonna go and grind in the dungeon every day, and the dungeon bit just doesn't have enough to make me want to do that multiple times yet. And it's a shame, because it could be that if I did it 10 more times, I would unlock some tool or spell or whatever that dramatically changed the game for me, but at the moment it's not doing enough early enough to make me want to continue. I'm going to check out Rock Digger first and then Restaurant afterwards, which is looking a bit Hitchhiker's Guide influenced, because I think Rock Digger is going to be more of a gamey game, and Restaurant is going to perhaps be a bit stranger and might want a bit more time spent on it. So let's check out Rock Digger, and then got one more after that. I am planning on doing some streams where we sort of play games for a longer period of time, but I think those might be dedicated to sort of interesting indie games or art games that I feel would be good to sort of expose a bunch of people to. So if you haven't played games like Jazz Punk and stuff, I might start doing some streams about those on the channel. Yeah, again, this Kaiser said lots of unexpected stuff. Yeah, so I did a video recently where we were talking about progression in games, right? And I think it was the Deep Space Cache game, which is like a bullet heaven type game that I played recently. And there's basically, the progress in a game that you can see. Like, you can see how much stuff there is to unlock on the map, and you know what it is. And then there's the progress where you can see that there's stuff, but you don't know what it is yet. Like a present with a question mark on. You know that there's a thing to do, but you don't know what the reward is going to be. You don't know what you're going to unlock. You don't know what area you're going to unlock, or what power you're going to unlock, or whatever. And then there's like a third type, which is just surprise progress, where stuff happens and you get a reward and you didn't know it was coming. And I think so much of game design, once you get past the initial bit of just like, what is my game, and you get towards like designing the content and building out the like long-term thing that the player is doing, I think so much of that comes down to balancing those things and having a balance of them, so that there's enough of a roadmap for players to look at it and see, okay, this is what I'm trying to do in the long term, but not so much of that is mapped out that it feels like there's not going to be any nice surprises, because that's one of the things that we play games for. It's one of the things that makes playing games or watching people play games exciting to do, is kind of these mystery drops that can happen in a game. And if a game is set up in a way where it feels like there's not enough of that, then it's kind of drained of the motivation to keep playing it. You'll find very early on, I think. That's cool. I didn't know that, Slaughterware. It would be nice. It would be fun to go back to some of these at some point and replay some of them. I remember playing like Alien Hominid and some much less savory games in the Flash era on Newgrounds, like some pretty gross, disgusting ones actually. Rock Digger. I think this is going to be a not Manic Miner. What was the other old game, like Boulder Dash? That kind of building from the side type, digging from the side type digging game. What I haven't done today is gone and read about the project histories, because I've got an email with each of these games telling me about it, and if I do a longer video on any of these games, I'll probably read the email in that, but I haven't really looked at that today. I'm just judging the games based on what I see in front of me. The power of lightning has granted you the gift of life. You've also found some legs. That's very funny setup. Legs and life unlocked. Okay. I've got a weird like turning thing where I sort of turn slightly. I might get the controller, I think, because it looks like they built this for that. Hold. I've got some arms. I don't like this kind of all caps font, but I like the sense of humour of like, you've just unlocked arms. That's very funny. It's a very strange character design. Why are pickaxes coming out of the rocks? What's happening there? Nice sound design happening here. Like, not everything has a sound, but it's not too intrusive. You are too light to press this. Okay. First time anyone's ever told me that. Vacuum power unlocked. You can now suck up ores or clean your room if you find one. See, like, there's like lots of mismatched pixel art and stuff in this, but everything has kind of a nice sound effect on it. Everything has like motion if it should have motion. This has just immediately got a much more satisfying sort of toy factor of how it feels to interact with compared to the dungeons in Nimbit, which was that was the kind of thing that would really hold me back from wanting to play that a lot, was just the moment-to-moment feel of doing the action part of that game was just not strong enough. Some of that was sound, some of it was just the feel of things interacting or not feeling like they're interacting. Okay, so I unlock that because I'm heavier, because I'm carrying some ores. That makes sense, I guess. Frederick was saying, got any tips for making points of interest in a procedural open world roguelike setting thing? Right. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, actually, and I'm planning a video on it. So, I think a lot of people make a procedural level generation system, and then they call their game a roguelike because it has procedural level generation. And I think that can really lead to a misunderstanding of what people like about those games. Oh, this is a really good conversation to be having when I happen upon a really complicated screen. So let me just work out what the screen is, and then I'll go back to trying to answer Frederick's question. In this mysterious place, you can transmute your absorbed ores into energy and materials to upgrade your body. The collective transmutation value of the ores within your body is represented in TP, transmute power. Powerful enough to transmute. Okay, cool. I'm gonna spend that on more damage and pierce with pickaxe, because that's all I can do. That's fine. Okay, so we collect ores, we convert them into upgrades that are sort of, yeah, so it's quicker to break stuff down. This is feeling very much like one of the Roblox mining games. So yeah, to answer Frederick's question, I think the thing that most people find most enjoyable about roguelikes is that you have a different experience each time, and the bit about the level generation isn't really the main driver of that. The thing that drives the different experience each time is being able to build a different character each time, right? So that's the first thing I would think about is your game actually a roguelike? Because like something like Ape Out has random levels, but I'm not sure it necessarily, well, it doesn't market itself as a roguelike. It's just an action game with procedurally generated levels. And I think as soon as you go down that route of calling what you're doing a roguelike, then you need to be really on, you need to really kind of get, oh, I need to vacuum these, don't I? You need to really understand what the pleasure of those is for people, and just experiencing a level that's different each time doesn't necessarily provide that in and of itself. It's also your character is different and their abilities are different. So I would just really advise against anyone marketing or calling their game a roguelike if it's just because it's got procedurally generated environments, because I don't think that's really what people come to the genre for. But that aside, yeah, exactly. But that aside, I would think about, you know, we use musical metaphors a lot on this channel, talk about like rhythm and cadence and stuff. Think about what you want that to be, and I think it's probably fair to use it as an example. We've got a community member who's in the Discord, and I reviewed this game a few months ago. It's called Underneath. It's like a first-person dwarf roguelike, you know, like a Dwarf Fortress, but you're playing as one character, and it feels a bit like an ImSim with procedurally generated levels. But at the time I played it, it also felt very like, okay, you go in this room and there's 3 spiders, and then you go in this room and there's 2 bats. And it didn't feel like any of it had been designed as encounters. And I think maybe a really helpful place for you to start off with, if you haven't done it before, Frederick, would be to look at, you know, how things like random tables are handled in things like Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like, and I kind of want to draw it, but if you imagine you've got a table with 100 things in that can happen, it's like you get attacked by wolves, you meet a merchant or whatever, and then obviously you can roll 100 and just pick something randomly off that table, but you can also step along it in stages, right? So you might go, okay, roll 1 to 6. You get a 4, you land on item 4, this is what we're doing, we are discovering a set of traps, whatever. And then you roll another 1 to 6 and you move on the table that amount, and then you find the next thing in the table that corresponds to that number and you do that thing. And that approach that they use in some tabletop role-playing games means that you can sort of have a table that like increases in difficulty and do things in roughly the same order, but have a totally different experience each time, right? If you are basically jumping through a table using a random number each time, and you're always kind of heading down that table and kind of heading towards the end of it where the harder stuff is, but you're skipping like, you know, 3/4 of the content each time. That can be a good way to structure what you're doing. And then you can just have... Oh, what's going to happen? Ah, that was a weird little pachinko puzzle thing. Don't know how I'm supposed to be able to get in there yet, though. I don't think I can. And then, yeah, if you put things that are similar to each other on that table, like, I don't know, you know, numbers 10 to 20 are all kind of things involving wolves in a forest, right? Then it means that you will roll from that section several times. You might hit things in that section 2 or 3 times without advancing. And that means that it kind of feels natural because you get some stuff together that goes together, but then it kind of moves on to another thing. So I would think about using that approach. I don't know how that would tie into what you've programmed in terms of your procedural generation and how it works. But yeah, like, because you want it to like feel like a world still and not just a bunch of random stuff. And I think that kind of approach can mean that you still have some control over it. Right, what I'm looking for is another one of those little shops to cash out my... Because I can't carry any more stuff. And I can't get back up to the shop I was at before. I'm just going to have to keep digging around until I find another one. This is kind of like the Steampunk Dig one, the game that went with Steampunk Heist. I really like it, but I'm getting a bit of dread about whether I'm soft locked because of the... Oh! Hello. Yeah, what's the world setting for your game, Frederick? Have you got a particular flavor of fantasy or sci-fi you're doing or something like that? Because that might help guide some of these choices. So part of the reason why we I've got empty inventory again now. I can just gather stuff here. I get lumped on the head and then thrown back out again. Okay, so I came back here, but I lost all my ores, I think. Howdy, Teeny. I don't know how people feel about the sort of character and world in this. I find it... I think the art style for the character and the environment are really nice. But it's not like super aspirational, right? This is not like a guy that I necessarily want to be. But maybe I'm just racist against robots or golems or whatever it's supposed to be. Like Shale from Dragon Age kind of vibes. As a painter fighting against corruption that has blanketed the world. Okay, so I'm getting in my head, I'm getting like Studio Ghibli, like horrible black ooze ruining all the beautiful places type stuff. That's a really cool concept. I really like that. I guess you could think of like whatever your zones or biomes are, Frederick. You could think of them in terms of like just different types of natural beauty, and then your encounters can come down to like what appears in those places. But then also because you've got a big bad that is attacking all of those places, you can have some like recurrent ooze monsters, right? So I think maybe Studio Ghibli films are actually quite a good reference for you, because if your theme is an artist saving the world from gross corruption stuff, then you can basically do a sort of like Dr. Robotnik type thing, where each place in your world has creatures and features that have been corrupted in particular ways, right? So the forest is going to have corrupted wolves in it and all of that kind of stuff. And that way you can just use the wildlife that would be in the different parts of the setting without it just feeling like you're beating up random animals, because you're beating them up because they're corrupted. Classic Get Out cause. Oh, alchemy detector found. You can now sense the position of all alchemy circles in the underground. See, this is what I like. I wanna... That is like a UX feature, I guess, to have that little map that tells me where all the alchemy centers are. And we could have had it from the get-go, but they've made it into a little unlock that is like, oh, when you get it. I love that kind of stuff. How much of your game can you section off and make feel like a reward to unlock and get? It's a good thing to kind of think about when you have these kind of helper features. I need to get back to where I can spend my TP or my bunghole. Making Flying Too Close to the Sun with Beavis and Butthead references that no one's gonna get. I have Beavis too close to the sun. Thank you, Mario. You have been here since the beginning. It's OG, I think. Right, we've got Mega Pickaxe, which I don't think I've been using. Mega Pickaxe, higher damage and pierce multiplier. Okay, so we've got a charge upgrade for the Mega Pickaxe, and then does that just unlock the Mega Pickaxe, or have I got it already? Yeah. That's good. That's what you want. That's what Minecraft needs. One of them. I think that the setting is kind of strange here. It's like sort of fantasy, sort of sci-fi, can't really tell. But that kind of weirdness and abstractness has let the designer just be like, okay, what would it be cool to be able to do? It would be cool to have a vacuum for sucking up crystals. It would be cool to be able to throw your pickaxe through a wall and do this big bashy thing. Is there a way I can... yeah, I can make the map bigger. So there is an alchemy thing down there. Don't show up very big on that map, but I can just about see where I need to go. Oof. I'm glad there's no fall damage. Can I actually get through this yet? I can't mine that type of material. I don't know why, and I don't know what to do about it. So I'm going to have to try and get back up to the last one, but I don't think I can. The last time I just failed this trial thing and then it teleported me back there. I'm so good at that. Oh, I lost all my TP again. I'm gonna have a quick look at what the email from this developer said, so we can see if there's a specific thing they wanted feedback on. Because I do quite like this, but I'm quite neutral on it in the sense that I like it. It feels kind of compulsive. It makes me want to play it more, but I can't think of easy things that I'm like, oh, this is an amazing thing about this game, or this is something I would change, you know? So Anthony said it's a digging world inspired by Motherlode and SteamWorld Dig. Yes, has some physics-based puzzles. There's still plenty of time to review what works and what doesn't. I would love to get some feedback. So if you decide to try, okay. So there's not any sort of specific queries there. Yeah, no, it's not fully released yet, and it is very polished. I think. You know, I can see the way that game is structured, right? We're gonna, if we keep going and we dig further down, we're gonna find different areas, different sort of colours of gems that are worth more, and you know, thicknesses of rock. And it's already done that thing I like, where there's been some nice little surprises of, oh, you've unlocked the map, and it's a small thing, right? But making something like a map unlockable just kind of shows you that the rest of the game is going to have stuff to unlock. Sometimes you just need to show people that initial thing of, like, this game has stuff that I've hidden from you and I'm going to gradually reveal it, rather than showing too much straight away. It's a really fine line. But to be fair, I mean, even if this video is just myself and members of the chat being really enthusiastic about this game, then that's good enough feedback for the developer. So but yeah, I maybe am getting into a position where I'm sort of soft locked because I've used up all the crystals in this section and I can't get down to the next one, so I'm sort of a bit stuck. Look at those, I want those, they look yummy. Feel a bit stuck at this stage because every time I go and die in that red portal, I lose what I was carrying, and I haven't been able to cash it out and upgrade enough to get through to the next section. So I do wonder if there is a possibility of the player soft locking themselves in this earlier stage, which you don't want, probably. I do love to destroy a cube, you know? In fact, I think there might not be anything better in the world than destroying a cube. Oh yeah. Upgrading the super pickaxe goes slightly further. What more could you want? Right, one more try at this, and then we will boot up the last game for the morning. Whoa. Is there a pattern? Is this predictable? I got the donk. Yeah, can't stop playing it. There's something very compulsive about blowing up little cubes and collecting shiny things. You heard it here first. People like shiny things and blowing stuff up. Subscribe for more cutting insights into the world of game design. Thank you for the super thanks as well, Mario. I only just noticed that. Cheers. Appreciated. Come on, restaurant at the end of time. Load for me. I'm going to close it down and open it again. I think this is going to be a strange art game, which I do like, but I never really know how to talk about them when we're talking about game design, because they sort of fly in the face of a lot of the stuff you're trying to do with a conventional game design. You know, when you're making art games, like expressive games that aren't necessarily about entertaining people, you don't necessarily have to play by the same rules as other people, but because people will like it based on the idea of the thing more than the execution of the thing sometimes. Thank you, Precipi. That's really sweet. I appreciate that. I'm always very surprised when people kind of give me like big praise on how we talk about games on this channel, but I just have to remember that for a lot of us, we're sort of exposed to lots of not so great advice on when it comes to game dev stuff on YouTube, and that is really just because there are lots of people just learning as they go along and documenting it, which is a fine format to have. I'm glad we have that as well. But yeah, I mean, game design is a thing that people do for a job, and you can learn it like you can anything. There are books about it. There are people who are experts in it, and it doesn't all just have to come from someone devlogging the first game they ever made, you know, which is what a lot of YouTube is. And it's fine that we have that, but there's space for people like me as well. Look, we've got weird little ants walking across a table. What a great way to start a game. Yeah, we love a strange art game. I'm definitely going to play jazz punk on here at some point in the next couple of weeks, because I think that's a tour de force of weird art games that everyone should have played or seen at some point. Start. Ooh. Something is randomizing. I'm starting with $750. Which is after the number, which is very strange. I'm not allowed debt. Okay. Why is the text so small in those corner things? I'm taking it. Taking my debt notes. Does this have no sound? So, if you are not a sci-fi codger like myself, you might not be aware that the restaurant at the end of the universe is a sort of setting from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And this game is called Restaurant at the End of Time, which I think is, you know, roughly a similar thing. I can't get through the door. Oh, this is a shame, because this looked really interesting and I can't make anything do anything. This is it's called Walk Towards a Door and Back Simulator. Um, just walking towards the door. Picking up the... I picked up my letters. I don't know where they went. I didn't see what they said. I guess they were debt letters. I can't turn around. My clicking hand only appears when I'm at the door. And then the letters that... Like, I can't interact with anything else because I picked up the letters that were there. And that seems to be it. And I've got 25 minutes. Right, I'm gonna stop it and start it again just to make sure that I wasn't hitting some bug. I don't have a massive problem with things with, you know, playing things that have a bug in, but I need to know it's a bug, right? If it's just I can't tell what's going on in the game and I don't know how to progress, then that's not a bug. That's a design issue. That's a design issue. Yeah, I'll get the game loaded back up again in a second. We'll see if that text says anything. Here we go, back in. Start. Nuke France. Randomly allocated nuking of France. Yeah, that's fine, Frederick. I mean, the point of these streams is to have a chat about other stuff as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing them, you know. Or I would just not look at the chat if I didn't want to hear what people have to say. And I guess if there are times when I really want to focus on the game and not on the chat, then I'll tell you. I'll be like, shut up, not listening. Trying to open this door. But, yeah. I'm just going to check whether there's any clues in the developer email on this one. To open the door, you must enter the secret code. You must hit yourself over the head with your own keyboard. Let's have a look. End of time. End of time doesn't help me find it. End of time game. How about that? Restaurant game. This is actually a very good representation of what being in a failing business is like. You know, I'm trying to play the game, trying to do the thing that I've been sent, and I've just got to deal with all these emails. Right, so we played Forklift Certified. That was pretty good. We will just... I'm just going to try and find a bit more information about this game because there's a chance that I'm just missing something really dumb at the start and it's stopping us seeing what this is all about, which would be rubbish. Yeah, I don't think I'm Not able to find anything about this one, and I just can't get past that first thing. And it doesn't feel like a bug. It feels like the sort of thing where I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Oh yeah, open door with E. That's a good shout. I had that issue before. Ah, here we go. Q and E are to turn and look the other... Right. Definitely no way of knowing that without... A to go to whiteboard, D to... This feels sort of deliberately clunky in a way that doesn't achieve anything. But I like being able to do this. This is what all games should have. Okay. Wait, are you seriously erasing my beautiful artwork? Oh no, it's still there. D to go to the shop. Okay, I like the premise of this, where you've got a very tactile management simulator where you are like running a shop or whatever. The controls are atrocious because to turn between the different areas, I'm pressing Q and E. It's just like, is that based on? Is that a kind of Five Nights at Freddy's thing that I just don't understand? Because I don't play enough of certain types of games. I don't know, but it's certainly unintuitive, and it feels like I could be clicking on these things. Burger return 9, pie return 20, 15, juice return 3, coffee return 15, burger menu demand 33%. This is good to know. All of this stuff. Yeah, I quite like the weird surreal field of vision. And when I press spacebar, it does a squeaky toy for some reason, which I also appreciate. So A to go to table. Calling. Who am I calling?
Mesajı bırakıyorum. Erkan, anahtarlar koltuğun altında kalıp beni ara.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would like 10 of those, please. Try again. Let's do another phone call.
Mesajı bırakıyorum. Erkan, anahtarlar koltuğun altında kalıp beni ara.
Yep. Yeah. Tomorrow. Okay. Thanks. Well, that's what the phone does. The gnome. Can't interact with the gnome. Open the letter. Ah, fuck! The letters have painful things in them. What are these? This is gloriously strange. I really like this. It's like, well, this card stirred the pot a bit. Prices are up 5%. IRS won't even bother asking where this came from. $500. Okay, so you get mail, and it has modifiers on the game. So the red one is the one that hurt me, and that's made something bad happen. I think this. Look how tactile this is. It's so nice. It's sort of making me think of Inscription or what's the person that made Pony Island? Oh no, it's the same person, isn't it? It's the same person. It's kind of got that vibe, but it's so painful to move around. I'm just trying to work out what proper business people do. I like money. What do business people do all day? This kind of stuff. I've got 1,500. Am I supposed to buy some of these things? Yeah, magnifying glass. Need one of those. A golden clover, definitely. An ingredient pack. several of those. And some documents, just some random documents. Yeah, that's all I need from there. Oh, menus in menus. How immersion breaking. Right, W says that goes to the doorstep. And then if I'm here, oh, I've got more letters now. Oh, I've got my clover that I ordered. This is great. I've got my magnifying glass. What did that do? What did that do? Oh, I think the magnifying glass told me that that was a good letter. Because it made the thing go blue. And before, when I opened the letters, I got a blue one and a red one. And I think the idea is that if you get a blue letter, it does something positive. And if you get a red letter, it does something negative. This is very strange. Right. Are they both going to be blue? Or yeah, they're both blue. Okay. Quickly, before they change their minds, grab that 20%. What does that mean? Something good. Is that a purchase thing on the little shop that's going to change on the computer? This is so weird. It's like a financial escape room. Is that someone's knocking at the door? Is that, have I got more mail? I don't know if you're getting any sound on this. The sound is really quite quiet, so I'll just pop it up a little bit. I don't know how I'm supposed to know what any of these do, and I guess that's kind of the point of it, but it's very silly. Takes a while to pick up a letter. Ah. Hang on. I didn't realize there was a kitchen in this restaurant. Hello, buddy. This just got interesting. I mean, this looks like Chappie or something, like really grim version of high-tech sci-fi. Okay. Orders: burger, pie, big menu, coffee. Oh my god, we got some Diner Dash. It's Diner Dash in the Chappie universe. Disgusting. Hello. Right. The pantry as well. Oh my goodness. It's 87% full. That's it. That's the information we get about the pantry. Yeah, this is really charming. It's winning me over, but I mean it feels like it's going to be a nightmare to play if you actually want to play it for like the challenge. And can I help cook, or is that just Mr. Robot's job? Yeah. Make the food, gosh darn it. Preparing pie menu. I love how, I mean, look at it out there. That is not what I would call a restaurant. That is a diner. That's an American diner. That glowing pink person. I can't work out how to do anything though. It's like I can see people want stuff. It's like everything is rendered so nicely, but then like trying to work out how the interactions work, it's like it's wild. Not enough ingredient. Okay, time to go to the computer and order an ingredient. Let's buy some ingredients. Oh no, I don't have enough money. That's business. Right. Let's see if we've been sent any money. No! The magic money tree hasn't sent us any money. Yeah, documents floating on the wall. This is great. It's really difficult because you like when you see this kind of game, it's like this is coming back to the types of jank conversation again. Sorry, that's so loud. It's so much louder than the rest of the game. Oh, a yellow one this time. Fuck! It's coming back to the types of jank conversation again about like so much of this game is impenetrably weird to get your head around how it's supposed to work, but it feels like that's the intention. So it's like you don't necessarily want to say, oh, make this easier to understand, make that easier to understand, because you might ruin the vibe of the game. If the whole point of the game is working out how to interact with a weird game, right, then how far do you want to like sand the edges off that? Blink and you'll miss it, just like your -5 minutes. Okay, we're losing some time. Cards nudging the market upwards. What does the yellow one do? Something super occurred. I'm just text, can't explain. Okay. Something superb. I love it when something superb occurs. Okay, we got some money. And we got another knock at the door, which means probably more letters. Yeah, I want to check my theory about how the letters work, because this is kind of tying into what I was just saying a minute ago. If the point of this game is to work out how this strange game works, then there's no real feedback I can give about about the design and stuff. Right, okay, let's give me my... Look, it's pink. That means it's going to be a red one that explodes in our ears. So we're going to leave this one here and never pick it up. I think that's how that works. I think they light up different colours depending on, and that's what the hourglass is. But I also just spent the money on the not the hourglass, the magnifying glass, when I should have spent it on food on the restaurant. Ah, fuck! I didn't say there would be no red ones. I just said we were skipping one of the red ones because it was... Ah, fuck! I think it picked... Oh no, we had one more than I thought. Okay. I'm just not going to open the red ones. They're just going to say bad stuff happens, so I'll just ignore them. That's how we do business. Right, we've got some ingredients now. Back to the kitchen. Such a weird game. Oiga? Not enough ingredient. Excuse me, robot. I mean, I can't necessarily work out... If I had one piece of feedback for the developer for this, it would be that, like, every one of these shots where the camera moves somewhere should have at least one bit of obvious information of, like, what you can do. And there's lots of stuff I can click and it makes a noise, but I'm not really sure how a lot of these things relate. So I think this is telling me that there are 0 burger orders, 0 pie orders, and then 0 orders of all 3 things together. But I sort of just struggle a little bit with... Okay, the big menu is all of the things. But yeah, I sort of struggle a little bit with knowing what's clickable. And I feel like the weird artsy parts of this game are fighting a little bit with the sort of diner dash restaurant management type stuff. Not enough ingredient. 2%. It's very easy to get into a sort of almost soft lock position of just not having enough money to buy ingredients. which is perhaps the point. This is wonderfully weird, though. I think if there's a demo and it looks good to you, then definitely give it a go. But the controls for just moving from shot to shot are absolutely nightmarish, and I think I would prefer if there were clickable arrows on the corner that told you, you know, if you click the one at the bottom, you're going to turn all the way around, and if you click the one on the left, you're going to turn this way. And because assigning them to assigning them to the keyboard keys that we normally associate with moving in a first-person shooter is just very, very strange, particularly when you have Q and E to turn that aren't even written on the screen. So you've got this weird mix of these things are labeled to tell you what button to press, and then there are other buttons to press which just aren't on the screen at all. So I think there are a few things you can do to make moving around a little bit simpler and easier. But as for like the core gameplay of what you're doing to manage the restaurant, it's really hard to say, because it's clearly meant to be weird and strange and a little bit impenetrable, and I don't really want that to be lost, because it's where the character of the game comes from. Yeah, I think the pantry is just the percentage of how much ingredients you've got. So at the moment, I can't make anything because I need to buy more ingredient packs. Yeah, I really like the fact that ingredients is just a single resource, and there's like no attention to like what goes into a burger or any of that kind of stuff. I find that really funny. Let's do one more round of letters and see what happens. No, I don't want the pink one. I have a feeling that the golden clover thing might be like a lucky thing that forces your letters to be good ones. Ah, fuck! That was so anticlimactic. I opened a bad letter and died in some way, but I didn't get to see what the letter said. Oh dear. Right. It has nearly been 3 hours, which is about as much as I can handle with my old man eyes and brain and hands. But thank you all for tuning in, and I may do at least one more of these this week. There are definitely more games to look at. I went through like 6, I think it was today, that we had on the backlog of Steam games. But I also have other stuff people have sent me, and games that are on itch and stuff like that. And if you do want to send me a game, I know I've seen people ask in the chat since we started about that. It's indiegameclinic@gmail.com. I tend to prioritize looking at the games where you have a specific design problem that you want to talk about, because that gives me some guidance on what you think the issue is with the game. I might find other issues with the game, I always do, but it's good to start off with that, because again, like half or more of the games I'm sent now is someone has me on a list of email addresses for like, here's content creators who look at smaller indie games, and they just send it out to like 12 people, and I get a Steam key, and I'm happy to have that Steam key, but there's nothing in the email that indicates that they are looking for design help, which means that if I roast their game, which is what my channel sometimes does, they haven't asked for that, and then they're going to get upset with me later on and go, why did you be so mean about my game? I sent you a key. And it's like, well, you sent it to Indie Game Clinic, which is a channel about, you know, finding out what's wrong with games and how to make them better and stuff like that, which is not what necessarily a kind of general indie games content creator would do. Rockshirt sent me an email just now. Amazing. I will read it at some point. But yeah, I don't really have... I have a system for keeping track of which games I've looked at, which I've played on a stream, which ones I've done a full review of, and all of that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily work through them in the order that I receive them. I work through them in the order that I think they're going to be interesting to look at. So sometimes if people send me a demo and it's really early and it's like a grey box and there isn't really much to look at, it might get held back a bit longer because it's just not very interesting thing for people to look at on YouTube or on a stream. So it's difficult because I think best practice in games is often starting with no art, starting with no theme, make an abstract interactive thing, see if it's fun, layer the theme and stuff on later on. I mean, there's all sorts of orders you can make a game in, but that's definitely a very valid one, and one that I would encourage a lot of the time. But it doesn't make for good streams or interesting discussions, because if it's just moving boxes around, it's like not very visual, basically, because you're just dealing with the interactive parts of gameplay and not the art and theme stuff, which is what players tend to care about in the end. But it's often a good way to design a game is to start off without any theme and layer it in as you go. DJ Clicker, excellent. I've got a couple of clicker games actually. There's another clicker I've got waiting that is a burger clicker one, so maybe we'll have a clicker day soon. Yeah, I haven't. Well, so I there were a few years ago, I ended up working on a clicker commercially. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers Tap Titans. It was like a mobile incremental game where it was just a cookie clicker type thing, but it looked like little Final Fantasy characters fighting a big monster boss. And the studio I was at made something based on that. And yeah, doing the math for incremental games is fun times, because like, you can't even plan it out in a spreadsheet because the numbers get unfathomably large before you're even like halfway through the game, and then you have to work out your own number systems for like what's a billion in this game. And I'm sure that might have been something that's been solved since then, because I haven't really played them in the last sort of 5 or 10 years. Hey Revolver. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to take a look at some sort of clicker type incremental games, because I haven't seen anything in that genre for a while. And I remember when we first got things like Cookie Clicker and stuff like that, and really enjoying both the math of them, and also that thing I mentioned earlier about the kind of hidden unlocks. And I think you can get a lot of mileage in a game out of just carefully and carefully well paced hidden unlocks that surprise you with what the next thing in the chain of things is. You can get quite a lot of delight out of that. It's like opening a sort of Christmas advent calendar if you do it right. Okay, well, thank you all for joining. I am going to log off and get some food, and see you all soon. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and it's your first time popping in. But I will be doing one of these at least once a week, where we just take a quick skim through some of the games in my backlog, and it helps me to sort of work out which ones seem interesting enough to do a longer video about as well, because I can't do a 20-minute video about every game I receive, not just because I don't have the time, but because they won't all get viewed, right? Because I need to be able to say, this game contains the one true secret to making a game that makes $5 billion zillion, or whatever.